Hi guys, welcome to another video. Now, in this video, we will study storage classes in C. In the previous video, we had talked about variables and the data types. So, as we saw, variable has a property called as data type, which decides what will be the type of variable, what values they can store, and how it will behave. But for variables, there is another property which is very important to know. Uh, Variables has two type of properties, which is type, and the second property is storage classes. Okay, so as in the previous video we had talked that variable occupies physical location. Okay, so variable will occupy some physical location in the memory or registers, and in these variables or these physical locations, some values will be stored in form of bits. So variable occupies some physical location, and this physical location stores some values in form of bits. So these bits are nothing but a representation of the values. So one property of this variable is how to decide that where this variable will be stored. So this is defined by the property called storage classes. If we don't specify the storage class of variable, compiler will assume its storage class automatically depending on the context of the variable. So depending on the context in which variable is used, it will automatically assume some storage class on its own. Now what is context? Context is nothing but the environment, or we can say the surroundings in which that variable is being used. Okay, so a variable will be used in some program, in some surrounding. So based on what is the environment, what is the context for which that variable is being used, compiler will assume its storage class on its own. So that is why many people don't talk about storage classes, but then it is also a very important point that we should be aware of, because not only the location, it also determines several other properties of variable. So talking about location of variable first. So as we know, variable can be stored either in the memory or in the CPU registers, right? So in memory or in CPU registers. Now, as I said, storage class not only determines what will be the location, it also determines some other properties as well. So let's look at the other things too. Alright, so storage class determines four things. First, the location of the variable, default value of the variable, scope of the variable, and lifetime of the variable. So we have already discussed about location of the variable. Now let's look at the other things. So when we say default value of a variable, what we mean is the initial value. That is, we know that how variable is created. Whenever we declare any variable, it will be allocated some space, some physical location in the memory or CPU register. Wherever it is getting stored, it will be allocated some physical location. So as soon as this physical location is allocated to the variable, this variable will be holding some initial value. Okay, so this initial value is called the default value. So default value is nothing but variable create होते ही उसके अंदर क्या value store की जाएगी, that is default value. Now the third thing is scope. So by scope, what we mean is that in which part of the program will the value of variable be available. So if our program consists of multiple functions or multiple blocks, so in which part of the program, that is in which functions, will the value of this variable will be available. So if I create a variable a, and if its scope is within this block only, then we can say that scope of this variable a is within this block only. So scope is nothing but the area or the functions or blocks where the variable can be available. Now talking about lifetime of a variable, so lifetime is nothing but the life of variable, that how long will this variable exist. So if I have created a variable a here, will it exist for the entire program or only till this block of code executes, or in some other block of codes also? This is defined by the storage class. Now depending upon these four things, that is the location of the variable, the default value, scope and lifetime, we can divide the storage classes into four types. Okay, so let's look at the first type of storage class, which is the automatic storage class. Now, as I said, based on the above properties, we have divided the storage class into different types. So, starting with the first property, for a variable of automatic storage class, the storage location is memory. So, a variable of automatic storage class will be stored in the memory. Now what about default value? What will be the default value as soon as the automatic storage class variable is created? So whenever a variable with automatic storage class is created, its default value will be garbage. Now what is this garbage? So what garbage value is? Now suppose you have created a variable. So how will this variable get created again? This variable will be created by allocating or assigning some physical space into the memory. Now when we create any automatic storage variable, then this variable will not be assigned any specific initial value. Instead, it will have the already existing value that was already present in this memory location. So we have a memory, and in this memory, suppose this space, obviously space was not created, this space already existed in the memory, right? So when we created a variable, so this space got assigned to our variable. Now this, since this space is present in memory and memory is already being used, so it is possible that this space was earlier being used by some other variable, and it might be storing some other values. So when our new variable got created, this variable was allocated this memory, and this memory was already holding some existing value, but this value does not belong to our new variable. So for this variable, the value is nothing but garbage. So this is what is meant by garbage value. So default value for any automatic storage class is garbage. Now what will be the scope? The scope for an automatic storage class is local to its block in which it is defined. Okay, now let's suppose in our program we have multiple blocks. What are blocks? Any area between these curly braces is called as block. So suppose in our program we have several blocks. So if a variable of automatic storage class is defined inside a block, then its scope will be inside this block only. if I create a variable a within these curly braces, then it can be used anywhere within this curly braces, but it cannot be used outside this curly braces. So since I have declared this variable here, I cannot use this variable a here because it is accessible within its original block only where it was defined. Now consider another example. If I create, this is the first block. Okay, I'll make it a little neat. Yeah, this is the first block, and here I have created a variable z. So how these blocks are created? This is the outermost block, and this block is the innermost block, which is contained within this outer block. The variable z that I have created in the outside block will be accessible within this entire block. So since this innermost block comes inside, so z can be accessed from the innermost block also. Now talking about life, so life of any automatic storage class variable is within the block. So as it is created in this outer block, once this outer block ends, variable z's life will also end. So outside this block, this variable will be not accessible. Now let's look at the declaration of the automatic storage class variable. So a variable of automatic storage class will be declared as auto and variable name. So auto is the keyword for declaring automatic storage class variable. So for example, auto int x. So this is the variable declaration, and if we want to assign some value to it, then we can write auto int x is equals to 1. So this is declaration with assignment. Now let's look at some important points to be noted. So whenever we are using the automatic storage class, it is very important to initialize your variable before using. So let us consider this with an example. Here within the method, the function int main, I have declared a variable of auto class, auto int a. Now I didn't assign any value to it. So what will it hold? It will hold some garbage value. So now when I write printf mod d comma a, we'll look at this later, what is mod d and printf. For now you can just understand that printf is a function used to print value of something. So in this line printf mod d comma a, we are trying to print the value of a. Now till now we have not assigned any value to a here, so it will be holding a garbage value. So when we write print a, some random value will be printed, which is nothing but garbage value. So before using any automatic storage class variable, it is better to initialize it first to avoid any garbage value from being used. Now second point to be noted here is that if in different blocks variables of same name are created, then the compiler will treat these variables differently. Now before jumping on to the example, I'll explain you how this works. So consider that 3 blocks are there. Okay, let's make it a little smaller. Let us consider an example with 2 blocks only. So consider 2 blocks are there. If I create a variable a in the first block and a in the second block as well, then the compiler will treat both of them differently, because this a belongs to the first block and this a belongs to the second or the innermost block. and this belongs to the outermost block. So the compiler will treat both of them differently. Okay, now let's look into the example. In this example, I have created one function int main. Now within this function, there are three blocks. In the first block, I have defined int a and assigned this value 1. And in the second block, I have created the variable with same name with value 2, and in third block or the innermost block, I have created variable a with value 3. Now what will the properties of these variables? This innermost a having value 3 will be accessible in the innermost block only. Okay, so this variable with 3 will be accessible within this. The variable with value 2 will be accessible within the second block. So from here to this curly braces, it will be accessible, and the first variable, that is the variable having value a, will be accessible from the point where it is declared to the end of the first block. Okay, so when we write printf a, this is a statement. So in this statement, we are using this printf function to print the value of a. Now the compiler will think there are 3 a's, which one should I print? So since it treats each a differently and each a has different values, it will choose the a to be printed based on the priority. Okay, so what is priority? Priority rule says that choose the nearest value of variable, or you can say choose the most local variable, that is nothing but the nearest variable. So nearest to this printf statement, see, this printf is within the third block, so nearest a value, a declaration to this printf is the one within the innermost block. So when we write this printf, it will print the value 3 because it is the most local one, most nearest one. Now let's look at the second printf. The second printf lies within this block. This is the second block. So now what will be the most local or the nearest value for this? It will not be the value of a with 3, because this variable with value 3 will end its life with the end of its block. Okay, so the most nearest for this one, this printf statement, is the variable a declared in the second block. So it will print value 2, and if there was a printf at the end, that is after this second block ends, if there was a printf at the end, so in the third block, then it would have printed value 1, because in the first block, after both block 3 and block 2 ends, there will be no variables, no a variables anymore, as their life would end, and the most local one will be this one, that is the variable with value 1. Okay guys, that was all for this video. Now for the other storage types, we'll meet in another video. So till then, please like, share and subscribe my channel. Thank you.